Welcome to our Tulsa Anthony. Today we're going to have a insightful conversation. For those who are new to the channel, we make mental health conversation and content that's going to be beneficial to your personal development in addition to your well-being, right? But in today's conversation, we're going to talk about you don't need to become someone else to become worthy, right? Some people believe that they'll finally become worthy when they're more successful, more confident, more attractive, or more accomplished, right? But worthiness is not something that you earn. It's already something that we already possess, right? Your happiness, like I said, lies within you. For those out there that you all see the sticky note right there, that's something that I put back there on the back end. Like, you want to develop that relationship with yourself, put affirmations. You got to be able to build this rapport with yourself, right? Compassion, self-love, right? But we really got to be able to have awareness, but realize, like I said, we're looking external for that validation, but all of that validation, self-esteem, self-worth, self-love, self-care, all of that is inside of us, right? So the more time we build that rapport, we love ourselves, spend some time to get to know ourselves, right? Things will become more better, right? But let's normalize the experience, right? So many people believe when they compare themselves to others, that's going to be something that's maybe beneficial, right? Also, to society in regards to social media, often convinces people that they'll become enough when, they get that acceptance from others, right? It's also common to believe that happiness and acceptance exists when you're this full version of yourself, right? So I really want us to understand, like I said, that we don't need to be seeking external validation from other people. You know what I mean? Comparing ourselves from other people sometimes can make us feel unworthy, incapable, inadequate. We're not worthy enough, right? And we're self-sabotaging ourselves. We're putting ourselves down with a negative mindset, right? So let's reverse that process into a positive process and build ourselves up, like I initially, began talking about that, the affirmation when it comes to sticky notes, right? We got to be able to spend time with ourselves, utilize positive words, right? Consistency, right? Really making sure we're providing this effort consistently so it's able to help us build this neuroplasticity in our brain. Because like I said, when we're used to doing certain things, breaking a cycle, could be a challenge, right? But we got to keep using that positive reinforcement to break through our old patterns, right? So I really want to take into consideration, because we half-ass the process, we're going to get half-ass results, right? But when we really advocate for ourselves, we really apply our methods, things will begin to turn over, right? In regards to psychoeducation, humans naturally seek acceptance, belonging, and validation. When self-worth becomes tied to achievement, right, or comparison, it often feels unstable, right? Like I said, we start to feel inadequate, we feel less than, we still start to self-sabotage, right? So constant self-rejection can create that anxiety, perfectionism, even chronic dissatisfaction, right? So like I said, we don't need to be tore from the floor up. We don't need to compare ourselves to other people, oranges and apples, right? Other people out there, like I said, they have their gifts, they have their great abilities, they have their skills, their talents, right? We need to focus on what's on our plate, aka personal development, right? We're able to improve, right? We don't need to have jealousy. We don't need to, have all this anxiety building up. We don't need to have all this aggression, like hatred towards other people because they're more successful than what we may be at in the current stage, right? We can work on ourselves. We can improve. We can get to where they're at, or even, beyond, right? But like I said, we need to focus on what we got on our plate. Let's worry about our strengths. Let's worry about our weaknesses. Let's figure out ways we're able to improve, right? And then things will be able to, like I said, roll over, right? But when we're focusing on other people, I really want to take consideration that we're giving our energy, right, from ourselves, right, everything from our core essence inside of us outside to other people. And sometimes they may never be paying mind to us. They may not even care, because they're focused on themselves, right? So let's really, like I said, have this time to really understand about our personal development and how we're able to develop by focusing on what's on our plate, right? So self-improvement, in addition to self-acceptance, are not opposites. They coexist with each other. So let's, like I said, work on our self-acceptance. Let's acknowledge, be accountable for where we're at, right? Have some compassion, you know what I mean? We can still improve. It ain't over, right? And let's really work on that self-improvement. In regards to the practical reframe, viewing things for yourself a little bit more differently, right? Growth should be something that, like I said, you're able to understand. You feel me? It comes from that self-respect. It also is something that, like I said, we don't need to self-sabotage and self-reject ourselves. We can, like I said, we can understand that growth can happen at any given time, at any moment, when we're able to acknowledge ourselves, right? So you don't need to dislike who you are, right? You need to also, too, embrace who you're going to become. Just because where you're at right now doesn't mean you're going to be stagnant, you're stuck forever, unless you want to, right? But if you want to grow, you want to improve, you want to change, and you're putting that energy into it, you're going to be able to reach the capacity to where you want to be based on you showing up for yourself. So I really want to take that in consideration, right? Your worth is not dependent on, reaching the next milestone. It's not dependent on other people and that validation. Like I said, everything's derived from you. But I also want people to take in consideration too is that stop focusing on the big picture. That's where we want to be, but at the same time too, let's embrace the process, right? We want to be able to gain the skills so we're able to have a foundation, right? Because like I said, for someone out there, let's just kind of fast forward. If you were to snap your hands and you got to be, or you got the results that you anticipate and you have it all tomorrow, right? Let's say, for instance, you lost that position, you lost the business, you're down bad and you're back to square one, right? Do you understand? Do you have the skills? Do you have the ability, right? And the capacity and the cognitive, you feel me? Awareness of how to handle things if things went down bad, right? That's what I'm saying. It's really important for us to embrace the process, one step at a time, building the steps, right? Building the discipline. Get up and try it. You fall down, you try again. You feel me? Like really putting these things together, because like I said, we need to be able to have the sustainable skills, right? So we're able to have that foundation once again, right? So like I said, we can grow, we can improve, we can cultivate all this positivity, but like I said, this purpose towards the process. So I really want us to understand that, right? So pulling it back together, right? So let's kind of have a positive refrain, right? I can grow without believing, there's something wrong with me. Like I said, stop focusing on negative attributes. Don't get it twisted. You're going to have your pros, you're going to have your cons, you're going to have your strengths, you're going to have your weaknesses, right? But really, like I said, use those strengths. Focus on what's working. Really, you feel me? This is what we do in, when it's called to solution focused therapy, right? We're really focusing on what really works. We're not focused on diagnosis. We're not focused on, you feel me, like the criteria in regards to, what's going on with you in regards to your mental illness, etc., right? Let's focus on the strengths. Let's focus on the positive. You feel me? What is working for you, right? So in regards to pursuing your goals, let's practice more self-compassion, improving your habits. Like I said, we all can improve when it comes to habits, right? So let's talk about, not shaming ourselves. Let's utilize, the affirmation to really boost our positivity. Every day when brushing your teeth, you look at that, really let that marinate with you in the morning or before you go to bed. Like really practice implementing these things, learn new skills without trying to, compare yourself to other people, right? You feel me? You may try something different that's outside of your comfort zone, and you're thinking about how other people may perceive you. It is what it is. On the back end too, no one ever know, but I do yoga on the back end, hot yoga, you feel me? But this is what's helping me cultivate a peaceful mindset, and also too, it's good for the body, you heard? So it's like, what? You feel me? You never know until you get outside your comfort zone, right? So try new things, and you feel me? This can help you develop your character as a person. Addition to this as well is appreciating who you are as you're still striving towards that growth, right? Like I said, the person that you are today, the person that you're going to be 3 months from now, 10 years from now, like, you feel me? It's all going to be grow. It's all going to grow throughout the process, like I said, as you keep appreciating yourself, right? So embrace the process, embrace the skills, embrace the foundation that you're all building, because it's going to add into that big picture, right? Moving forward, when it comes to micro action, because when we know better, we tend to do better, right? So off rip, I want you to notice one area you've been, telling yourself that you're not enough. Like I said, just notify, like, this is the area where you're having that self-sabotage, like what's really going on right now, right? Then I want you to follow yourself with that critical thinking in regards to, would I speak to someone else this way? Is this the way you talk to a friend, a best friend, or someone you would advise or support, right? I'm pretty sure not, right? So let's really kind of, like I said, develop this rapport with yourself. Talk to yourself the way you talk to that best friend. You are your best friend. You're going to be sticking with yourself. You feel me? Like your internal world, your thoughts, you feel me? This is tied to you, right? So let's build ourselves up. Let's really, get into our conscience and really, is this who I am? Am I really a bad person? Am I really not capable? Am I really, like, why am I pulling myself down? Right? If you did something before, you're able to what? You're able to do it again, right? So we all gotta, like I said, realize that we may have to get outside of our comfort zone, and we gotta start something new. We may have to get back into the regimen, change up our schedule or whatever it may be to really get the result that we anticipate, right? But we need to be able to incorporate more positive self-talk, right? So replace, like I said, the self-criticism, with more balanced thoughts, right? More compassionate perspective, right? Your point of view is very important because you're the one that's navigating your journey, right? So let's really provide more positivity in our world, right? Wrapping up this video, I really want to take into consideration, like I said, your value is not derived from anybody else. It's also too not derived on the finish line, right? It's derived on how you treat yourself, and derived on the skills that you learn throughout the process to get there, right? And when you get there, you're gonna be like, wow, like all the work that I put in, the consistency, you feel me, the discipline, right? You feel me, the self-love, the compassion, all these things allowed me to get the resilience to get to that finish line, right? So like I said, I really want you to have the skills, because the foundation is really what you want to have. And when you have the foundation, like I said, you can fall down, you feel me, the next day, and you have everything that you need to get back into the right position, right? So if you found this video beneficial, give it a thumbs up, share it possible. I'll see you on the next one. Stay blessed.